because it forced me to reckon with the impatient parts of my soul, the success obsessed parts of my soul, the parts of my heart that don't want to admit that that maybe I want to take a shortcut. Welcome back to the What's the Dope podcast. I'm your host, Pete Dill. Today, we're just going to be talking about some life updates. We're going to be talking about some things that I've been working on. I want to share with you. Every episode, I like to, prepare some talking points, look at them, review them. Today, I just felt like maybe we're just going to shoot it from the hip and see what happens. A lot of you may have seen that we just released Where Does Jesus Live?, our first children's book. With what we're doing at Backseat Media. So that was really, really exciting. I want to share why we did that, some progress updates on that, and then what we have in the future going on with Backseat Media. So yeah, we released a children's book, Where Does Jesus Live? So if you haven't seen the book already, you can check out the link in the bio here. It's on Amazon. Where Does Jesus Live? Search for that. Search for my name, Peter Dill. It's on there. You will see it. Grab a copy. Let me know what you think. Leave a review. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the book. Why did we do this? Why did I do this? Well, I felt like a few months ago, this desire to be a part of the solution for passing the faith down to children. Obviously, I'm a young dad. Got that going on in my life. And it really struck me, very quickly when my son was born, about how you can already start introducing Jesus to them, bringing them to church, having family prayer, talking about Jesus in the house, having, icons and crucifixes up in the house. These things are ways to introduce your children, my children, to Jesus. So I was very struck a couple years ago about how early it starts, this kind of passing down the faith. It literally starts day one when you bring them home from the hospital. So I've been very convicted and very in this process. I've been very in this process. Okay, what are we doing? How are we doing this? We're going to mass. You bring your kids to mass and they cry, they scream, you're sweating, they're holding on, you're having snacks, and you're kind of like, is this doing anything? I think sometimes with little kids, when the kids are going nuts in the pews, that thought can creep up. I know it does it myself of okay, this is good, right? This is worth it. Their kids are getting something from this. And what I just feel like something that I've been dealing with is having different points to reinforce, not dealing with maybe is the wrong word, but something I've recognized, this pattern, is that I try to reinforce Jesus with my kids at different points. So it's not just at mass. It's not just bringing them to mass. That's the only thing we do a week, but it's having that family prayer, having those times to talk about Jesus, but also just have other little moments, other little things. How can I just organically bring God into this and talk about who Jesus is? And so something when my son was really young that we did was that we wanted Jesus to be personal. So we would say, hey, Jesus lives in your heart right here. Jesus lives right here in your heart. And what do you know that at a little 5-month-old, maybe not 5 months, but 6, 7, 8-month-old was able to recognize and understand that Jesus lives in your heart. And he would go like this. And now our daughter does that too. She's a year and she goes like this. We say, where does Jesus live? She goes like this, in your heart. She doesn't say in your heart, but she taps on her heart. And it struck me very much about how much little kids can actually absorb about the Lord. The Lord, God is actually on the move in little kids' spirits. It's not like they're just these little blobs, these little amoebas going through life, and then eventually one day they're sentient and they're like, oh, now I actually can understand everything. No, they actually understand from a very, very young age Jesus. They understand Mary. They understand church. They understand reverence. They understand doing good. They understand their emotions. They just can't regulate their emotions. They're just, they just kick and scream when they don't get a muffin. So that's their fatal flaw. That's baby's fatal flaw, is that they kick and scream when they don't get a muffin. But I was kind of very struck about how quickly our daughter was able to understand a little bit the concept of God and that he's personal. So I was like, well, I think this is such a great little thing. I want to help create resources and tools for parents. I like to be a doer. I like to always kind of have projects, something I'm working on, a challenge. And I've really been convicted the past 5 years to use my skills and talents to build the kingdom of God, like directly. I don't know what it was, but, as I kind of work in corporate America and as I have jobs and places that are just regular jobs, I always like kind of felt, I always feel maybe like I want more purpose in them. And they're great, jobs are great, but I've always kind of had this extra like, I like something with a purpose. I like something with real stakes on that, real, heaven and hell, real souls on the line. I like that. And so I felt convicted during the pandemic to start creating, start making things, seeing what happens, throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks. And one thing that I've really been convicted of as I've become a young parent is to make things and share them with parents. Like, this is what I made because it comes from a place, an honest place in my heart. Like, this is why I made this book. This is why I made this book for you to buy. Like, it has such a value in my life. I hope it has a value in your life. I want it to bless your life and have a value in your life. So that's kind of why we wrote this book, and where it came from, why we did it. And I've been so impressed with, I would say, the process of it coming to life, because for a lot of you out there, you just see a link that gets shared and it says, hey, look at this book that, Pete Dill wrote and Maria Clara, the illustrator, illustrated. But what I've had to really, what God has really been bringing me through is trusting in his process and not being, like, what I've learned through this process is to be patient and to not just instantly seek gratification. Because we had this idea like 8 months ago. Like 8 months, took 8 months for the writing, the editing, the publishing, the formatting, the printing. Like, it took that long. And a lot of that was learning how these things work. How do these platforms work? What does this mean? And that's the real boring stuff. No one wants to say, hey, what does it actually mean to format a landscape portrait, and the bleed sizes on your margins and how you format that in software and download it and upload it. Like, no one really, that's not the exciting stuff. The exciting stuff is the finished product. But what I've really, really learned is that, it takes what it takes to do something. What I feel like in my life, the things that God has called me to do, like, being great at it, doing great, it takes what it takes. There are no shortcuts. And sometimes when we're going through this process and getting notes back from Amazon and change this, switch this, or, illustrations, have to be changed, or I switch this thing and this formats weirdly, it can be frustrating because it's like, I don't want to do this. I just want to kind of have the finished product. And what God really brought me through was like, actually, man, like, you have to find joy in the process. You have to find beauty in the process and not be consumed with the finished product, the results, the success. And that's hard for me because I want instant success. I like success. I want results. I don't want to be patient. I'm naturally impatient. And so it was a challenge for me to go through this little 30-page book and start from having something in my head to out as a link on Amazon, out to you at your home. The details that it took for that to happen was challenging, but it also challenged me spiritually to make me a better person. Like, I know that maybe that sounds dramatic, like, what, writing a little children's book made you a better person? It indeed did, because it forced me to reckon with the impatient parts of my soul, the success obsessed parts of my soul, the parts of my heart that don't want to admit that that maybe I want to take a shortcut. Well, you can't take a shortcut. Well, I would do anything for a shortcut here. Well, like, being confronted with that, to saying, like, am I willing to put in the work, the details, be detail oriented to do something, to create something that is good, that is coming from a place of excellence, and that just like is fully done. And that wasn't easy because I just wanted the success. I wanted the results. And I think it really brought out in me this, it exposed something in my heart that I've probably been holding on to my whole life, which is I'll work hard for sure, but I need to know that there's going to be like good results here. And the beauty of this book is that like there was no guarantee that like it was just there was no guarantee for anything, for results, for it being finished. I had to bring it across the finish line with the support of other people for sure in this process. So anyway, it really taught me a lot of lessons just about being patient, being process oriented, and not being so like results like focused. Hey, let's just do what we need to do on this step and it'll bring us to the next step, and do that step excellently. Not easy. So as the results, so if you want the results have been great. We've been so happy to see people buy the book. We've been so happy to see people share the book on social media, send us pictures. And all of that work kind of then becomes so minimal and so worth it, because you see people and kids, and someone reached out to me and said, hey, my daughter is literally tapping her heart and saying Jesus lives here. She's never done that before. It's only after she read your book. I mean, that's incredible. That's not incredible because I'm so good. That's incredible that God uses our gifts to him, our offerings to him, to work in people's hearts. Like, little kids have looked at the book and liked the book. Like, dude, I'm so pumped that God is able to move in people's hearts because of something I made. And it's again, not for my glory. That's another thing I've learned. It can't be about my glory. It really has to be about God's glory. Like, I want this book to then help represent a way to get to God. Just like it has been for me, I hope it is for you and for your kids, that this is a pathway to God, that God can show you who he is. Not just that you look at this and say, wow, Pete Dill's awesome. No. I want this to be a way that God can show himself to you and your kids. And so we have more books, activity books, coloring books, another book on the way. We'll see how long when we can launch these things. But, want to go all in on this and see where God takes it. I hope that these things that we can create at Backseat Media can bless you and your family. I hope that it's something that is a joy and is a tool and is a way to share moments with God, with your family. So I want to keep making those things. We'll see where God takes it. I have no idea where God's going to take any of this stuff, where he's going to take Backseat Media, but we have some great ideas, great things coming, couple shows lined up. I'll share more about that, but that's been really exciting. I just want to say thank you to all of you out there who've supported the book, bought the book, shared the book. So many of you have been so just like blown away by the support. I'm so grateful. We're so grateful that it's out there, and that it's impacting people's lives. Like, so keep sending us pictures, keep sharing it. I'd love to see more, because I think it's something worthwhile. And I think that I've been so impressed with the impact. I'd love for more people to experience this, to experience that. That's it. That's the episode for today. We're just little updates, little support. Want to say thank you all of you who bought the book. Appreciate you all so much. And to stay on the lookout for more stuff that we have coming down. So thank you all so much for watching, for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe so you never miss an episode. Keep sharing Where Does Jesus Live? I love to hear more stories about it. I'd love to see any pictures of you reading it out there. As always, y'all, appreciate you. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.